Okay, so looking at our drive, our priority. So a lot of people don't even know this is here, and I will be honest with you. When I started working on this, uh, I wasn't a fan. I honestly was not a fan of this, and I didn't think I was ever going to use it. Um, about a year or two ago, they released something called the Quick Access Toolbar. In the Quick Access Toolbar, I kept shutting it off. I'm like, I don't need to see my recent. Plus, it was confusing people. People would say, well, it was just there the other day. Now it's gone. So, I didn't like the quick access. And then this priority came out. And I'm like, well, priority to me looks just like the quick access toolbar, except as I am looking, I have a little arrow and I can see more of my recent documents. That's all this part does is shows your recent documents. It also shows you a few little things such as you edited this today, you edited this yesterday, you open this frequently. So it tells you a few things about the documents, things that you are looking at, and it allows you to open it from right here, which is nice. It also, in the three little dots, it allows you to you can share right from here, you can add it to your workspace, you can make a copy. So different things that you see here, you're like, oh, okay, maybe I do want to open this or share this. You can do that from here. So a little bit of a nice feature, but honestly I don't use that as much as what is below that, and that is called the workspaces. So think of workspaces as your bookmarks. So a lot of us use the bookmark bar. Um, Dawn, I just saw your message pop up. I don't know if this is available in a personal account. We might have to go into our settings and look. And it might not be available. So if you click on your gear and go into settings, I don't think you can really turn it on and off though. You can't. You can just make it open to it. So, Dawn, you're just going to kind of have to hang out for just a couple minutes and then we'll move on to my drive. Yes, and Kendra, I believe you're the FFA person, but yes, we will get to older documents here in a few minutes. So priority is not folders. It is not organizing your drive. What this is a place for quick access. So basically what it is a place for you to say, hey, I open these documents frequently and I want to be able to kind of organize those in groups. So again, think of them as like little bookmarks to things that you use all the time. So for example, my announcements. So you guys all log into Progress Book. You see the Google slide on there. This is where I store them. So my announcements is my first workspace. So I have the holding slides where I create them because you guys don't want to see me creating them while you're logging into Progress Book. And then the one that I publish to the Progress Book site is this one. So I go through it all the time. I'm changing them constantly. So I want this at my access. So I created a workspace for that. My beginning of the year tasks, then you can see I have COVID folder. So a bunch of fourth quarter report card changes, our Zoom settings, things like that. Our current classes. So again, these are bookmarks to these certain things that I open all the time. Okay. So how do we create a workspace? Very simple. You can create it on the fly or you can create it here. So you see this blue button that says create, or I should say blue text. So if I click on create, it's going to ask me to name my workspace. So if I name my workspace, let's see, we're going to call this Lunch and Learn. Okay, and I'm going to say create. So these are going to go in alphabetical order. So that's how they're going to be placed. When you create, it is automatically going to suggest items that you might want to add into that folder. Do you have to choose these items? Absolutely not. But you can see it searched my Google Drive and it found 2 documents that I have the title Lunch and Learn in. So here is what Rebecca and I shared who was teaching which class. And these were our generic names. So just as we were brainstorming, we have this document. So I might want this in there. So I can click on that and it'll say 1 file is added. I can say add the selected. So now you can see that has been added into my Lunch and Learn. I can add additional files or I can be finished or done. Okay. You can also see here that underneath my priority title, it says 1 of 25 files. So I can only have 25, think of it as bookmarks. So 25 bookmarks in this holding area. So I'm just going to say done. So now what it did was it created this Lunch and Learn. So I have all of my documents in there. I can view it whole so I can see everything because it's not going to show you all 25 documents if you had them. I can click on the 3 little dots. I can rename it if I have a misspelling. I can hide it or I can remove it. So we're going to talk about those. And you can see down here, I have hidden workspaces. So if I click on that, you can see one of my classes that I taught was called Pear Deck. So for example, I'm done with COVID. So I can say, okay, I don't want to get rid of this because maybe I'll open that back up so I can hide it. So now it removes it from my workspaces and it puts it down here under hidden. Okay. So again, what is this doing? Why would we use this? Well, because in my drive, I have to come in through here and okay, now I'm looking through here and I need to find that Lunch and Learn document. So I'm going to search and search and search and see and find, I'm like, where did I put it? Or you'll notice here I have some other things for Lunch and Learn. So maybe I want to add these um, to my workspace. So I'm going to right click on this Google drawing. So I'm going to right click. Now notice when I right click, I have the option to add it to a workspace. So my workspace, they're all going to be listed here. And notice I can create, let's say on the fly, I can create a new workspace, but I'm going to click on my Lunch and Learn. So notice it's still here in my drive. Okay, it didn't go anywhere. But when I go to my priority and I go to Lunch and Learn, now it's listed here. So you can see it listed. So again, it's just a shortcut. So it's not removing it from my drive. I can take this item and move it into folders. I can do whatever I need to do with it. Now, this is why I have been using priority and now I think it's great. So if I go to priority and I decide, well, Lunch and Learn is over, summer is over, I can get rid of this. So I can just click on my 3 little dots and I can say remove workspace. Now, notice what it says. The workspace will be permanently deleted, but the files will remain in their original location. So I'm going to say remove. So what does that mean? It just deleted my bookmark of those items. So let's go look at my drive again. So in my drive, I had that Lunch and Learn drawing and I scroll through, there it is. It did not touch it. So again, your priority is just a place where you can set workspaces and kind of organize things. Maybe you're working on a rock unit in science. You can create a workspace called Rock Unit. You can pull in your slideshow. Maybe you have a document that you want the kids to have. Maybe you have a template that you're going to share through Google Classroom. Put all those things in there. They're there, quick access for you. When you're finished with that unit, you can either hide it or remove it. And those items will still remain in your drive. Any questions? How many can you have? That is a great question, Rick. I am not sure how many you can have. I just know that you can only have 25 documents in a workspace, but I can find that out and get that out to you. So I have quite a few. Let's see. Well, I guess I'm down to 4 now because I do have some hidden. Okay. So let's go down to my drive. So looking at my drive, when we're creating documents, we can put them in folders. We can share folders. We can also share individual documents. So I'm kind of going to show you the concept with both items. Okay. So I'm going to create a new document. So as we know, if I create a new document, I'm going to call this lunch and learn. Oops, I can't even spell. Lunch and learn doc. Okay. So I have this document. We know if I click back on my drive that it automatically creates it in my drive. I have my drive set up so it is organized by last modified, which means that my newest item is on the top. Some people have theirs organized by name, which means that it'll be alphabetical. So you can see I can switch to alphabetical. And then I'm going to switch back to my last modified. So my document that I created is right there, right on the top, not shared with anybody. So let's take a look at our share settings because this has changed just a little bit. Okay. So this document is private. So nobody else can see it. I am the owner. I can add people. And if for those of you that haven't been in sharing, this has changed. So I can still add people if I want. So if I want to add another me, then it's going to say, do you want to send a message and so forth. Okay, so it's showing you here what document it's going to share and send to these people and then how you want to share it. Okay, it also, I can send out a link and it's going to restrict it to your domain by default. So it's restricted to tccsa.net. So for you guys, it would be Go Arrows, westhomes.org, whatever it might be. I'm going to leave this private. So I want you guys to be aware. Notice in there, it is private. So I am the owner. I have not shared it with anybody. So you can see up here at the top, it is still the lock and private only to me. Okay. So next, I want to create a folder. So if I click on my new button, I can create a folder. Okay. I'm having a hard time spelling lunch today. So I'm going to call this folder Lunch and Learn. Okay, so my folder is now private. So here it is. I created it. Okay. Now I am going to take this document and I can do it one of two ways. I can click and hold on it and drag it up this way and put it in my Lunch and Learn. Okay. I'm not going to do that. My second way that I can do that is I can come over here to my drive and click on this little drop down caret. If I do that, be aware that these folders are now listed alphabetically. Okay, so look at over here in my drive. Notice they're listed last modified. If I click over here on the left-hand column, my drive folders will be listed alphabetically. And you will notice I put a few little cheats in here. The tilde at the beginning is going to be alphabetized before any numbers or letters. And then I wanted my files to be at the end because they're just extra files that I have. So I added a Z in front of it. So just a little tip to get things placed where you want them to be. Okay. So those are two ways that I can get my file. So I can drag up or I can drag to the side and put it in Lunch and Learn. Okay. I'm not going to do either of those two. I'm going to go into my document. So here's another way you can get it into a folder. So when you create your document name, you will notice that it says Lunch and Learn is in my drive. Well, I don't want it in my drive. I want it in my folder. So if I click on my drive, Now it's going to take me through that tree of all of my folders. You'll notice again that they're alphabetical. So I can go through here. I'm going to click on my Lunch and Learn, and it now highlights Move. So I can move this document into Lunch and Learn. So before I hit Move, notice over here on the left-hand side, I can create a new folder if I'm like, oh, I need a folder to put this in. You can create it right from here. So I'm going to say Move. It's going to tell me that it's been moved from my drive into Lunch and Learn. So now if I go to my drive, you can see my list. It has disappeared from my list. And if I open up my Lunch and Learn folder, it is now in here. Okay. So remember, this document is private to me only, correct? So I have not shared this with anyone. Now I want to share my folder. So I don't want to just share the document. I want to share the entire folder. So I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to say share. Okay, so I right click on my folder and I hit share. Once I hit share, again, this is sharing my folder. So it says share it with people or a group. So I'm going to share it with my other account. I can notify the people and then I can say, okay, what are these people going to have access to? Do I just want them to see the documents inside, which would be my view? Or do I want them to be able to add and edit the documents inside this folder? So I'm going to leave it as edit. So I'm going to say send. I'm sharing outside of my district. Okay. So I'm going to say share. So now you'll see that I get this little person here in my folder. So now I know that the folder is shared. I also, if I go into my document, notice my share button has now changed. Notice it no longer says it's private to only me. It is now shared with more than one person. Okay. So here's a little tip. So now we know that we can move things into folders, we can share folders. Well, now watch what happens if I actually create something in the folder. So I'm here. I'm going to create a new document. Oops, click too fast. Create my new document. Notice it's going to say, hey, you're creating in a shared folder. They're going to get the same sharing permissions as the folder. Do you want to create? Yes, I'm going to create and share. So now here is shared through folder. Okay, so I'm creating this. Notice it says it's saving it to Drive. Now notice it automatically changed my share button over here on the side. I also have this little folder if I need to move it into someplace else. So let's look at our Lunch and Learn folder. So now I have these two, both of them are shared. Okay, so I didn't have to, anything that I create in here, it automatically shares. So you create something in here and you're like, oh, I need it to go into a different folder. So I'm going to take this shared through the folder. We know it automatically shared because I created it in here, but I just want it in my drive. I don't want it in my Lunch and Learn. I just want it in my drive. So I'm going to take this and move it into my drive. And you're going to see a warning. You are moving this item out of a shared folder. People might lose their access. I'm going to click OK. So once I do that, it tells me that it's been moved. I'm going to go into my drive. Let's look for that shared through folder. I don't see those little people's heads. So I'm going to click on it to open it. Oops, I already have it open. And notice it's back to private. Okay, so your documents take whatever the folder share settings are. Okay, so be aware of that as you're moving things around. I want you to be aware of that. Now, here's another trick. So I'm going to move this back into my Lunch and Learn. It's going to tell me that it's going to get the same share settings as everyone. I'm going to move this. So let's open up this folder. I can see that they're both shared. So I'm going to open this document again. So my folder itself was edit access. But maybe I don't, in this case, I don't want my BLRV account to have edit access. Maybe I only want them to have view access. So I can click on view and I can say save. So now notice it says permission has been updated. So now in my folder, I still have both of them shared, but I was able to go in and manually change the one document. Okay, so my folder itself gives everybody access to edit. But if there's one document in there, maybe it's a template and you don't want people to modify the template, you can change just that document. Okay, but again, if I pull it out, then it's going to change those settings again. So just be aware of that. Okay, so looking at the chat, it doesn't look like I have anything in there. I'm going to give you guys a second if you have a question to ask before I move on. And I do know Lisa said she's on her iPad, and Michelle, you are on your iPhone. You guys do have to have your all the apps installed on iDevices. You have to have your drive, you have to have docs, sheet slides in order for this to work. And it's going to look completely different, but you can still share documents. You can still create new folders in Drive. It's just going to be, you're not going to drag and drop and things like we do. Okay. If you want to share your doc, but not have everyone change your document, can they make a copy and then change that? Yes. So good question. So if I make a copy, you are doing just that. So think about a piece of paper and you write 10 questions on there. You go to the copy machine, you make 5 copies. You hand those 5 copies out to your students. And then you're like, "You know what? I want 11th question." And you write it on your piece of paper. That 11th question doesn't automatically go on to all those 5 copies that you made. So that is the same case, whereas if you make a folder or a file and you share it and somebody makes a copy of it, um, once they make the copy, they are not seeing your updates. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to skip over shared drives for just a minute. We will get to those. I want to talk about shared with me. So shared with me, these are the documents that you have not created. Okay. And right now, you're probably looking at this and ready to pull out your hair, because if you were using Google Classroom these last couple months with your students, you're like, oh my, there are so many documents in here. What do I do with them? Okay. So, a couple things. Shared with me is giving you a link to this document. So, think of it as that. Don't think of this as a file. Don't think of this as your copy. Think of this as a link to this document that somebody else created. Okay. Or it could be something that you have opened from a website that will automatically be produced in here. Okay. So what can we do with these? Okay. So few options that you have. You can leave it here. You can leave it a mess. Completely up to you. That's what I do. Okay. Um, but if there is something that I want from here, okay, I can make a folder and move them into a folder. So you can see here, I have a couple, and I'm going to use these as my examples. So PD logs for credit for Ashland. I'm like, oh, you know what? I should probably keep those. I want those in my drive. So I'm going to go into my drive. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this PD logs for credit. Okay. So, and I now have my folder. Not sharing anything, it's just there. go back to my shared with me. If I right click on this, you will see it has an option that says add a shortcut to Drive. Okay, do you guys see that? So if I do that, it's going to say, well, where do you want to share it? Or where do you want to put this shortcut? Again, remember I'm saying shortcut and or link. I'm not saying I'm moving the file. So I'm going to put it in my Drive, and I want to put it in that folder called PD logs. So notice it says add shortcut. So once I do it, boom, it's there, shortcut added. So we're looking. Oh, wait, hold on. That PD log is still sitting there. Why isn't it disappearing? Oh, let me refresh my screen. Oh, look, it's still there. It doesn't disappear from here. So adding it to a shortcut to your Drive is just allowing you to organize it in the folders in your Drive. Okay. So if I right click on Lisa's PD log again, they changed this. So it'll say add to shortcut, and I can put it in another folder. It's just adding a shortcut. So now that I know that I created this shortcut, I now can remove this document. So I can say right click and I can say remove. So once I remove that, notice it removes it from shared with me. But if I go into my Drive, my PD log, here it is. Okay, and notice it's got the little shortcut. So I can still open it. I can still have access to it, but that's the way I can organize. Okay, so you can't organize shared with me. So, I know I have some things. Okay, so here is something from, and you guys, I'm sure have a lot more than I have, but you probably have a bunch of documents from Google Classroom. So it's going to put the student's name and what the document name is. Okay, so if I right click and say add to Drive, do I need to create a folder? No, we already have a folder for all of our documents in my Drive called, does anybody know? It automatically makes it. Here's our classroom folder. It automatically does it for me. Yep, good. Whoever just said that, good job, classroom. So your classroom folder is automatically there. Anytime you create an assignment for a student, a shortcut or a link to that file automatically goes into this classroom folder, automatically organized, nice and neat by classroom name, by classroom assignment, everything. So it's all in there organized for you. Okay. So what can I do with these shared with me? Just that. If you want to get rid of it, where is it at? I can get rid of it. Okay. You don't have to keep these in your shared with me. You can remove them. Now, if I'm looking at something like this that Rebecca created, oh, the Act 3 meeting. Did I make a shortcut to that in my Drive? I don't remember. So in that case, I would say add a shortcut to my Drive, go into my Drive folder, and go into my meetings. And I'm just going to add it there. Okay. So now it says it's been added to meetings. So if I go into my Drive, sorry, I was being impatient. If I'm going into meetings, it's going to be right here. Okay. But you can see here's the difference. Okay. So one is showing that it's a shortcut, and then this is actually my document. I made a copy of it. Okay. So I am the owner, not Rebecca. So that was back to, and I know there's a couple questions in the chat. I'll address those here in a second. That's going back to Rick's question earlier. Can I make a copy? Yes. So I took Rebecca's meeting. So I opened it up. I said, file, make a copy. and then it produced my notes. So then I put my own notes on it, and I am the owner. Rebecca does not see any of those changes I've made. Okay. And then again, I can start cleaning this up if I need to. Okay, so let me address a few things and then we're going to talk about recents. Let me go back up. Yes, you can force a copy to any document. So this would only be if you are sharing the URL with someone, because if you're just sharing through the share button, there you can't force a copy. But what you can do is get the link. So I would change it to anyone with the link. Grab this, make a copy of this, or you can see right here. You can see right here it says edit. I can change that to copy this URL, and I would have to email it to someone. So if I email it to someone, they would get it and they would see this. So then that would automatically put a copy into your drive, not into shared with me because it's their own copy. Okay. So again, you can just come up to the top to the URL and say copy it, switch the word edit to copy, and then you have to email that out. You cannot go through the share settings to force a copy. And you can do that on all things, spreadsheets, slides. But again, if you are using Google Classroom with your kids, I would not suggest that option. I would share it and make a copy for each student through Classroom. This is better for staff, parents, things like that, that you want them to have a copy of it. Yes. So Kelly's question, is it safe now to delete those documents that were shared with us from students? Yes. I'm assuming, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that those documents were shared with you through Google Classroom. So if that is the case, they are still located in this, if you ever needed to go back to them. So if, you know, your principal questions you, you can still go into your classroom folder, into that classroom, and find that student's documents. What triggers that into the shared with me from Google Classroom is when you return the documents. So if they turn something in, they click on the turn in button and you give them 20 out of 25 points and hit return, that's what triggers it to develop in here. But it will automatically, as soon as you assign the assignment, it will put a copy of it in, or a shortcut to it in your classroom folder. And it sounded like somebody unmuted. Did somebody have a question? Oh, good. Carla, I love your question. You must have taken some of my classes because I stress the word never a million times in Google Classroom classes. Yes, never delete your Google Classroom folder. This is the organizational structure for Google Classroom. It does everything for you. All these folders I didn't create. I created just the few to get my old classes in there. But everything else was created by Google Classroom when I create my classrooms, when I create the assignments. So as soon as I create an assignment, it automatically creates the folder structure for those. So it does all the organizing. If you delete the classroom folder, these folders go into my drive, and you'll see them all listed here instead of going into classroom. Now there is a way to get it back. I haven't done it in a couple years, so it might be a little less clunky, but it was pretty clunky in the past. Other than that, that is really the only folder that you should never delete. Other things that you might see in your drive that were automatically created if you are creating, if you're using Pear Decks, actual Pear Decks, not Google Slides, and then using the Pear Deck add-on, if you're actually using Pear Deck itself, it will create. Screencastify will create its own folder, and Google Meet. And I know some of you, I know Ashland, I believe, uses Google Meet, and a few other districts are using Meet. So if you're going to do any recordings, those will automatically go in here as well. But again, just to never delete that classroom folder because it keeps everything organized for you. Okay. So good question, Lisa. So if you are using a shared drive, so yeah, we'll get into shared drives, but if you're using a shared drive, then make a copy. You can drag that into your own folder. Yes, you can. Because remember, shared drives do not have any ownership. It is owned by the drive, and you become a member of the drive. So the document belongs to the drive, not a person. So if you move one of your documents in there, it now becomes owned by the drive, not yourself. So if you make changes to it, everybody that is a member of that shared drive sees those changes. And if they make changes, it's affecting that document. So yes, you could make a copy of it. You cannot, okay, so the question, I have folders and shared with me, but have they changed that? You cannot make folders in shared with me. People can share folders with you, and those will populate in here. I don't know if I have any to show you.
Kelly, Kelly,
Yes.
is that new? This is Nancy. Is that new? Because I've had those folders in there for quite a while, and I went to clean up a little bit, and just recently realized that I can't move anything into those folders, and I can't make new folders. So is that something new that Google has changed?
No, the only folders that you can have and shared with me, so you can see right here, I have a special ed one. That's because Beth has shared this folder with me, but I can't move things into this folder. I can't create, it doesn't allow me to create folders here because shared with me, I don't own. Shared with me is from somebody else.
Okay,
So
okay, just for example, I have a track folder that my son shared with me. I can't move anything into that folder though, right?
correct. No,
Okay.
not
Okay.
from here. But so what you would do is take this folder. So if I want that folder and I want to add more things to it and so forth, I would say add it to my drive. Once
Okay.
you add it to your drive, then you can add things to it or take things out, whatever. But when you shared, and that's why people don't like shared with me, is because like you don't have the option to create anything. So if I'm like, oh, I want to put this in a folder, I can't create a folder here. It doesn't allow me to organize it. I actually have to move it into my drive or into a shared drive, but I don't think it'll let you do the shared drive. And then you
Okay.
can see here in shared with me. So this one is in a shared drive. So you can see the little symbol. It belongs to a shared drive.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Now, let's see. And hold on, I'm seeing a few more questions. Okay, hold on. Let's see. At one point, a student managed to get answers in a shared assignment and the whole class saw them. What did I do wrong? Kendra, you might have to explain a little bit more. So the student
I
got
had students go, hey, I'll just call him Johnny. Johnny typed answers on our assignment. So, and Johnny wasn't the best student. So I said, well, if you think Johnny's answers are great, I guess turn it back in it with your name. And they're like, no, some of them are wrong. And then I had asked my son to show me what he meant. And then
Okay.
Because when I was seeing it, I couldn't see this kid's answers on everybody else's sheets. So I don't know what I did wrong, because I totally taught myself Google Classroom by
I was
myself.
going to say, yes. So in Google Classroom, when you create an assignment, and this is only available in an assignment, by default, it is students can view the document, and then there's an
Yeah,
option,
there's 3
students
choices.
can edit the document. I
Mhm.
believe you might have clicked on students can
Oh,
edit the document because they're editing your original document,
so that
and
means
they can
everybody's
override over everybody else. So everybody's seeing the same exact document. So what you would want to
okay.
do is the next choice is make a
The
copy for
individual
each student.
function. Yeah, I thought I did that. So I must have just hit the one right above it, huh?
So,
Okay.
and here's the problem. If you already have the assignment created
Uh-huh.
and you go into edit, it will not allow you to change that setting. So
Oh,
once it's been assigned and you're like, oops, I did it wrong. I need to
uh-huh.
go back in and change it. You have to delete the assignment,
Okay.
create the assignment, and then say make a copy.
Awesome. Okay.
For
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. And a tip on that for those of you that are using Classroom next year, if you created things these last couple months and you're like, well, I want to reuse them, but I think I did it incorrectly. When you reuse a post, so when you go to the create reuse post and you pick that assignment, you can change the settings from students can edit to make a copy for each student when you are reusing the post. So you can correct it for next year if you're going to reuse that assignment. Okay, I'm still trying to get through this chat list because you guys have some great questions in here. Um, Diane made a good comment. You can color code all your folders. You can see in my drive, I have some things color coded. Like my classroom folder, I have a reddish. So, I'm like, I don't want to touch that. Some of my basic ones I just leave as gray. Um, so yes, you can color code those by right clicking, and you can change the color. You don't have many options, but you can do that. When I was still in the classroom, and believe it or not, this is going to be 8 years that I've been out of the classroom, but I taught graphic design, web design, and personal finance. So I had a multitude of classes, plus I had yearbook. So I had 5 different preps. So some of you I really sympathize with because I've been there. But like personal finance, anything that I used for that class, what color do you think I made it? But green. Money is green. So my web design made me think of hyperlinks, which are blue. So anything for those classes, I had blue folders. So I really use the color coding so I can quickly look at things and see. And then again, back then Google Classroom wasn't around, but anything that was like important or major, that I wanted focused, I put red, because that to me red sticks out, and it's like, okay, this is something that's important. So again, you can see my TCCSA PD folder is red, and then my Google Classroom is like a dark red, but I keep those like that. So and I know there's a couple other questions in here, colors. Um, oh, cool. Rick, I love squirrel incidences, but he said the Google blimp is going over. It's nice that the blimp is back out. They showed it on the news the other day that it was starting to get out more. So that's awesome. So I wonder if I probably won't see it up here. I'm in Medina County, so I don't know if it'll come this direction.
Yeah, it's going across Route 30 right now. People in Worcester should see it to the south.
Oh, cool.
It was another honoring of the healthcare workers, is what they said on the Cleveland News this morning.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Yeah, they showed one flying over. I think it was the clinic the other day. So that's
Yeah,
cool.
that's what they're doing. I think they said they're heading all the way down to Dover today instead of just up here.
Nice. Okay, so let's talk about recent real quick. So we've talked about my drive, a little bit about the shared drive, and then shared with me. So we have all these things going on. Where is my document? What I just was working on it, I put it in a folder, I forget where I put it. So happens all the time. Recent, go to recent. Notice no folders, nothing. I can't create folders here. I can't do anything. What it does is shows me things that I've worked on today. It shows me things I've worked on yesterday and a while ago. Everything is just listed by timestamp, the last time it was modified or opened. So you can see today I created my lunch and learn first, and then we were talking about those shared with me items, and then that other document that I created. But now you can see some things are created by me, some things are created by others. So it doesn't matter if it's in my drive. It doesn't matter if it's in a shared drive. It doesn't matter if it's in shared with me. Okay. So for example, so something like this is my drive because it's owned by me. Something like this is owned by Rebecca. And then if you see this little symbol, it is in a shared drive, but I can open them right from here. So it's just kind of an easy way to find things in all the areas that places it can be saved. And then the last thing that I do use, and I need to clean this up a little bit because I get star happy, and I teach my teachers not to get star happy, and then I'm one that gets star happy and forgets to unstar things, but things that are important. So you can see here, here's a bunch of things that I use frequently. So I have them starred. So back in the day when I started starring these, we didn't have the priority workspaces. So I don't use this that often. Now I'm using my workspace. And oh, I need to submit Ashland credit for several teachers. Oh, boom, here it is. Oh, I need to change the progress book login page. Boom, here it is. Well, back in the day, I had those items starred. Here's my Ashland. Here's my my progress book login page. So different things here that I use frequently. My district list. So if I need that, it's there. So starred can be helpful, but it also goes along with our priority. Okay. So a couple settings that I want to show you, and then I will open it up for questions. So, we talked about things, our shared drives, depending on your district. And I'm just going to call out Ashland because I know you guys are always locked down. You might not be able to create shared drives. I don't know. I haven't tried in my Go Arrows account, but some districts do have it turned off so you can't create drives. The Google admin has to create those. But very simple. You click on new, it'll ask you the name, and then you can start adding members. So if you look at our PD team, you can click on 3 people and it's going to show who the members are. Okay. See, even though Joe retired, we didn't like him as well, so we didn't let him be a manager. So you can change how people, he could only add and edit. We didn't give him the ability to delete. Okay. So that's kind of how a shared drive works. And anything in here, and here's the problem, anything in here, it goes with the share settings of the drive. So then if, we say, Joe can only view, then he doesn't have the ability to edit. So it's the members get the share status, but the drive itself is the owner of all of the documents. Okay. Okay, so a couple settings. So I'm going to go up to my gear here. Actually, I'm going to switch to shared with me so you guys can see this. So shared with me, take a look at my screen real quick. So when I look at this, it's just showing me my shared with me. If I click on my little settings, in my settings, I have some options. So down here. So some people have that quick access on. That is on in my drive. So when that is on, it's going to show you your last 3 to 4 documents that you have opened from my drive. So depending on the size of your screen, that's what it's going to be. So I have mine turned off because, like I said, it confused a lot of people because they're like, it was there, now it's not there, and so forth. The next one is important people in shared with me. Okay, so you guys just saw my shared with me. I'm going to turn this on and you can see it says refresh is required. So I'm going to say done. I'm going to refresh my page. And items that have been shared frequently by specific people are going to show at the top. Okay, so you can see Rebecca and I share stuff quite a bit. Demo 8 and Demo 10 are my Google Classroom students. So you can see the items that they have shared. So again, it's only showing me 3 people, but this could be helpful for you if somebody constantly shares things with you. If it's just, displaying your Google Classroom students, you might not want that because it does take up a lot of landscape across the top. So again, I'm going to go back to my settings and I'm going to uncheck that and say done. And then I have to refresh my page in order for it to take effect. Okay. The last one is my priority. So by default, when you open up Google Drive, it comes to my drive. So this is where it's going to start every time. If you like priority and you're using priority for all your little shortcuts or your bookmarks to all your documents, you can change your setting so that it automatically starts to priority. So, and I know some of you are newer to that, so you might not start using it. But if you do and you really like it, you can check that and that's where it'll start. Okay, I am going to stop there. Make sure I answered all the questions in the chat. Oh, wow. You, Diana, you can create shared drives or just share files through Drive. Oh, yeah, share drives. Okay, I should keep reading. Oh, that's good. Okay. What is the benefit of using a shared drive? Good question. So, actually right around now is the time that shared drives are popular, because teachers are leaving districts, teachers are retiring. So if I leave TCCSA, for example, Rebecca and I probably have hundreds of documents that we share amongst each other. If I leave and they disable my account, that disables those documents from Rebecca seeing. So any document that I've created that I've shared with her, she loses access to. So she could go through one by one and say, make a copy, make a copy. The district has the ability to change ownership as long as it's within their domain. But I can also take things. So, for example, maybe I'm like, oh, you know what, Rebecca, I had a lot of Google stuff. I can take this Google folder and I can put it in my shared drive. It takes away the ownership from me. I leave the district. All my documents are there, and the new teacher gets hired in August. We add them to the new shared drive, and they now have access to all those documents. So that's the main purpose of it. Instead of trying to get things from one person to another, the shared drive is very helpful.